Thank you very much, Sister Maryam. Very informed and certainly a much different presentation from what was presented at the Intercontinental yesterday. Quite a contrast. I wish similar kind of PowerPoint presentation can be done at our business meetings as well to inform what's really happening. Thank you very much. May I request our third speaker who's joined us to come to the microphone and please join us here.
Yeah, on the second. My story here, I would like to declare an interest. First of all, I am a Sunni. I belong to a community where I think never ever experienced any sense of communal conflict or a sectarian one. So I will not really go to the details of showing how, by proxy, the indigenous population of that small island would feel about the historical marginalization and oppression. And my second declaration of interest, that my history is slightly different from what my fellow speakers here, that I came to know about Bahrain by chance. I came as a young person to study English, and I met a very pleasant person who came from Bahrain, from Baku, to study English as well. I related to Bahrain since the early 70s, and my understanding to what's going on is coming from my personal experience. From 1972, I used to travel from time to time to Bahrain, and my personal relation to that individual pushed me to know more about the communities in that country. Bahrain is a very small island, a set of islands. It's almost the size of Isles of Land. It is not really big enough or wealthy enough to be understood. But at the same time, it is big enough to give an impression that the system is slightly different from the previous speaker, and I'm just trying really to sort out this at the time when I'm trying to personal experience with that island brought me much closer to the reality of it. And this is the kind, as my previous speaker tried to project that small island to the world. A ruling family which is projecting an image of authority, wealth, tolerance, dignity, and continuity. By seeing these individuals here, you think this is Bahrain, where everybody is trying to understand it. So let me go through a few of these kind of images and few of the issues which would reflect what's happening in that place in terms of prosperity, and how that small island is obsessively ranked by the public relations exercise in the West and the promotion of it to be at the top of the nations. So Bahrain is ranked among the top 20 nations in the World Banking Doing Business report. Bahrain is almost enjoying the very high standard of living with high personal safety, a well-established healthcare system, excellent infrastructure, and cosmopolitan environment. Bahrain is number 5 in terms of quality of life, and number 1 in terms of cost of living, and number 1 where you can enjoy your life and be happy with it, and the second and the fourth, and the 15th and the first and the 33rd. So that obsession of ranking continuously the quality of Bahrain and how the people are living there is in a way or another projecting an image of prosperity, well-being, social harmony, and happiness. But is that the reality? Is that what we see? Well, interestingly, when my first visit to Bahrain in the summer of 1972, I visited, and my family is living in Farid bin Hindi al-Muharraq, and I lived within the Sunni communities. At the time, I didn't really know much about the Shia community, because I lived within a community where all the people and the people I lived with, and later on I married their Bahraini daughter, are Sunnis. And by the time I used to frequently to travel to Bahrain, and my connections and relations started to get wider and wider, and I tried in a way or another to understand the difference of quality of life even within the Sunnis communities from the privileged elite. How people, Sunni and Shias, are suffering at the same time. Yes, indeed, I was shocked when I had the chance to visit some of the Shia villages for the first time in my life. And that was my first encounter. And later on, when I came in 1985 to visit Bahrain, I was very impressed by things at the time, because it happened that the outbreak of the civil war in Lebanon in April 1975 is pushed the authorities to start the first oppressive wave, because at that time the banking system needed an alternative place, and Bahrain was there, and that is triggered the first oppressive measures. And in 1975 the Representative Council was dissolved, and ever since the bouts of violence increases by the day. And when I later on, by 2005, with other individuals, and I have to say all of them are Sunnis, and are still living in Bahrain, we uncovered this very interesting set of an informal network run and monitored and financed parallel to the declared institutions. Everybody at that country was very shocked. But this is the reality of the Bahrain which you never see. The first images which we always see here in the West is contradictory and at the same time enforce the point which my fellow speakers here explained through figures and representation. The issues of torture, the issues of how the communities stood up inside Bahrain for years against this machinery of oppression and persecution, and how the people are continuously, they are trying hard to stand up and try to find ways of objecting bravely against the machinery of oppression in that country. Women and men, even children, continue to protest against continuous action against them, and tried in a way or another to raise awareness, to highlight the issues of discrimination, the issues of continuous exploitation of the resources, the continual threat to the identity of the indigenous community, the oppressive machine, the periodic detention, the vicious encounters between the oppressive machine of the mercenaries and the indigenous people in Bahrain,